gentlemen. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Breakout podcast. I am Chad Diedemann. I'm here with my co-host, Bill. Bill, we're back at it again for episode 2 after a great start last week.
Yeah, here we go. Playoffs are right on the horizon. We got some awards to get to. How about we start handing some out?
Excellent. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start off with some end-of-the-season awards. We're going to tell you who we think is going to walk away with the Hart, the Vezina, the Norris, the Selke, the Calder, and the Jack Adams Award. And then we're going to jump into some playoff talk for pretty much the whole show here. So let's jump right into it with our end-of-the-year awards, and we'll get to the Big Daddy. Let's start with the Hart Trophy. Bill, lead us off with the Hart. Who you got winning it?
Hart's pretty easy, I think. I have to go with Carey Price. I don't think Montreal would be anything without him. They'd probably be middle of the road, begging to get into the playoffs, kind of like Pittsburgh. Ovechkin, I had a 2. He had a great season, 53 goals, the only 50-goal scorer, but you can't overlook what Price has done this season with the .933, 44 wins, and 9 shutouts. It's been unreal.
I'm with you. You know, people say goalies have their own award, but I think it's got to be Price, hands down. Without Price on that team, that is a middle-of-the-pack team at best. Price has been unreal. Can you believe it or not that the Sabres beat Price twice this year?
I know. Matchups, huh?
Yeah, but I think this one's easy. You know, it's Price all the way, and I would be shocked if he doesn't win it. So let's jump into the next one that should also be easy, the Vezina, and should we just keep going here? Because I think we both know what's going to be on this one, too. It's Carey Price.
Yeah, Carey Price. But I do want to stop and give a few honorable mentions. Dubnyk, what he did after being picked up by Minnesota, if he would have been in Minnesota a whole season, who knows? He definitely couldn't be giving Price a run for his money. He ended with Minnesota with a .936, actually better than Price. Pretty crazy. He played... Basically, as soon as he got traded to them, he played every game from there on out. He played unreal. Also, Hammond, I think it was just a hot goalie, but you can't overlook what he did. Nice little honorable mention. And you know, kind of a dark horse for me, Schneider. They had a horrible team, but he had a .925 on the Devils.
Yeah, a guy I didn't mention that I would think is also a dark horse too is Braden Holtby. You know, like Hammond and Dubnyk, they, half the year they went at it. They ended the season great. But, Holtby, went all year with that .923 save percentage, that 2-2 goals against. He's been great for the Capitals. And that's something Washington hasn't had going into the playoffs is confidence in their goaltender. And I think, Holtby gives them that. And that's something to the Caps look forward to in the playoffs. That could get them far this year. This could be the Caps' year. And Holtby could be the reason why.
Yeah, we'll see. Until the Caps do it, I kind of don't trust them like San Jose. Another thing, Holtby also did play the most games out of any of the goalies this year. 72 starts.
Yeah.
Carried the load for them for sure.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if he falters. And along with Dubnyk, who played so many games, it'll be curious. And even Price, played a lot of games. It'll be interesting to see how long they can hold up in the playoffs of a long grind. All right, so the first two are easy. Hart and Vezina. So let's go to the next one. I think it could get interesting here. And let me say this before we keep going with the words here. Just so everybody listening knows, we did not talk about this at all. So we're kind of both finding out who we're picking here. So this should start to get interesting here as we get into some discussion on these awards coming up. So let's go with the Norris. Go ahead, Bill. Who's the best defenseman in the NHL this year?
For me, it was kind of tough, but I went with Subban. I think what he gives, he's a big hitter, he's fast, plays solid in his own end, but he also carries their power play. I don't know how many times I actually watched the Canadiens this year where I vividly remember in overtime they had a 4-on-3, everything's going through Subban, blast one from the point, game over. He's exciting to watch, and I think he had a nice year to go along with Price. I had Doughty in the 2 spot. If Giordano didn't get hurt, I had him up there. Carlson's too offensive for me, so I felt like after looking at all of it, I went with Subban.
Okay, this is the first time we're going to differ here, though. I will agree with you on Giordano. If he doesn't get hurt, I think he runs away with this. But I went Erik Karlsson here. I think he is the best two-way defenseman in hockey. He's got 20 goals again this year. And I believe he's around 60 points for a defenseman, which is insane. And he's no slouch in the defensive zone either. He's a plus player. I think he's what makes Ottawa go defensively from the back end out. Those first passes out of their zone, they're crisp, they're right on the money. It gets the offense started. And without Carlson, I think that team would be a lot of trouble on the back end. I just think there might be other better defensemen that you could go for the Norris here, but I think Carlson definitely deserves it. And how he's played the last 2-3 years, I mean, it's hard to argue he's the best defenseman in hockey on both ends of the ice.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it was a little too offensive, and for the best all around, I think Subban gives you the whole package.
Okay, all right. So I see what you're saying there. So on the Norris, we'll recap here. We got Carlson and Subban. So the first time we disagree here. So let's jump into the Selke, the best defensive forward. This should be interesting here. So I'll start this off, and I'm going to go Jonathan Toews. When you look at the plus minus, I don't put a whole lot in the plus minus, but after you get about halfway through the Tampa Bay Lightning's entire team, Jonathan Toews is up there at the top of the league. He could score goals. He can play well on his own end. He's always out in the big situations. And Bergeron had the mark of one of the best, maybe the best two-way center in hockey, and I think Toews is taking that from him. We've seen this, firsthand in Buffalo what he could do. He comes through in the clutch, and he's great in his own end. And I think this should be a runaway for Toews.
Yeah, for the Selke, you got your usuals there. Datsuk is always in the conversation. Bergeron's one of the last 2 years, I believe. But I also went with Jonathan Toews. I just think, especially with what he did with Kane going out, he really stepped up, and that's why they call him the captain. He did everything. He's good in his own zone. Chicago as a team really, when Kane went down, started to shut it down defensively. Crawford picked his game up. Taves picked his game up. They were winning games by small margins, but they were still winning games, and that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Taves kept that team going, and Patrick Kane's back now. So we'll get into a little bit later. It should be interesting how the Blackhawks are perceived going forward. So let's jump into the next one, and this should be interesting. This is probably for me was the hardest decision to make. There's 5 or 6 guys that are up for this award, and it's hard to pick one. So Calder, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, no question. For me, it was also the toughest. You could make a case for any of these guys, and I don't think anybody's going to bat an eye. So who'd you go with?
I went with Johnny Hockey. 24 goals, 40 assists, 64 points in his first year. He had a 14.45 shooting percentage, which is actually pretty good. The other guys, Stone in Ottawa, Forsberg kind of, it's hard to dip at the end a little bit. Klingberg, maybe if he played all year, he wins it. But I think Gaudreau was just there all year long. Even when he wasn't scoring, he was getting points, setting up plays. So he never went away all year, and that's impressive. That's impressive for a guy in his first year. He didn't hit that rookie wall.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe he was, a 4th-round pick too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a nice get. He also had the most time on ice per game out of the 3 you mentioned, Stone, Forsberg, Gaudreau, almost by 30 seconds. So he was playing a lot of minutes for Calgary. But I went with Ekblad. I think what he did in his first year, youngest defenseman in the league, 19 years old, playing 21.48 a game, 12 goals, 27 assists, 170 shots on net. He was the backbone for them. It was pretty amazing to watch what he did. Everyone knew that they said he'd come in and he'd play well, that he could step right in and be that guy for them, but who actually thought he would be this good? I just think age-wise, for what he did, he gets my vote.
And who's seen that scoring coming? Everyone thought he'd be, great in his own end, but the points he put up. When people say, well, you got to look at it that, he had Campbell, maybe Campbell helped. Well, I think it might be the other way around. I think Ekblad helped Campbell.
Yeah, he did everything for them. And Florida, look out. They're going to be a good team for years to come. Can you imagine if they accidentally squeak in and get the lotto pick?
Oh, man.
They'll be able to open up the top again.
Yeah, if Huberdeau can get his act together like he had his rookie year, and then, You got Sasha Barkov there too. I mean and then you throw in Ekblad, and that's a good young team with some other young talent around it too. And so yeah, Florida could be a team to watch in the upcoming years. So let's wrap it up here and let's go with Coach of the Year. I think this one is kind of easy. I think we're on the same page here. I'm gonna go with Hartley with Calgary. I think what he did with this team this year is amazing. Going into this season, everyone thought the Flames were going to be a bottom 5 team. They're in the middle of a rebuild, and they're a playoff team. And you always waited for Calgary to go away. When are the Flames going to start losing? When are they going to start losing? Then Giordano gets hurt, and they go, okay, Calgary's done. Calgary's done. But here they are, they're sitting in the playoffs now. And, when we get into the playoff series a little bit ahead here, I don't know if Vancouver can handle them. They're a young team, and they got a lot of speed. And I think Hartley did an amazing job with that team this year.
Yep, I had Hartley too. Pretty much everything you said. Being the young pieces they had that, like we said before, Gaudreau played in the minutes he was playing. It's amazing he got out of them what he did get out of them. Definitely no one saw him making the playoffs. Everyone was waiting for them to fall apart. They never did. With what he did with that team, definitely deserves a Jack Adams. A couple honorable mentions though. Paul Maurice with the Winnipeg Jets. They had a really good season. I do feel like they have better players. Cameron with Ottawa. The reason I didn't go with him, I think he kind of got a hot goalie there at the end with Hammond, but another very young team, and he kept that group together.
Yeah, and I think Desjardins is a guy who also definitely could have gotten a look. Which brings us into our next topic. Speaking of Desjardins, if we look at the best and worst teams, the best teams out of the playoff and the worst teams in the playoffs, but the worst teams in, I hate to do this to Vancouver, but I think it might be the Canucks. They got the Sedins, and then you look past that, and you got Radim Verbata, but, in goal, it's going to be hard for them. You got Miller who's hurt. He looked awful in his first game back, which is understandable. He's rusty. But, I got a feeling I think they almost have to. They have to go with Eddie Lack in game one because you don't know if Miller's going to be there. And if you get down to Calgary and get him some momentum, I don't think Vancouver can recover from that.
It's going to be pretty funny. For my worst team in, actually, I think I'm going to go with the Flames. Even with what we talked about with the coaching, I think they're too young. They got to fall apart. I can't believe it. I think the Canucks will. They're not a good team either. It's going to be the worst series of the playoffs, I believe. But with that being said, I do think the Sedins, they're elite players, and the Vancouver Canucks are a more experienced team. I think when it comes to the playoffs, they're going to be a little bit better. But, yeah, I definitely think whoever comes out of that series is going to be the best of the worst.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You said it could be the worst series of the group, but could at the same time be the best series because it's two teams that really aren't evenly excellent matched clubs, but they're really evenly matched, and it could be for some exciting hockey.
Yeah.
So then let's jump to the best team who's not in, and I will let you start that one off. Best team not in the playoffs right now.
That's pretty tricky. LA missing barely, Boston getting kicked out late. But let me get some cannon fire for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I believe that they were the best team that missed. You look at it, they were very hot at the end there. They started to get healthy. I believe they had, 508 man games lost.
Most in the league.
That's insane. Just look at who they had out too. Nathan Horton the whole year. Poor guy. It doesn't look like he's ever going to play again. And then just total as a team, the run they had at the end there was incredible, and I believe it was also a franchise record for most games in a row with getting at least a point. I believe the only game they lost to is to the Rangers in a shootout.
It was overtime, yeah. When it was a Stepan scored late, and then he won in overtime.
Right. Yep, you want to see the Wisconsin game.
Yeah. And then, with the injuries, too, let's not kid ourselves. We know who makes that team go, and that's Sergei Bobrovsky. He was missing for long periods, not once but twice during the season.
Yeah, Hartnell, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came back, and he was on fire at the end there.
Yeah. All right. So Columbus, I think, is a great pick. But where I'm gonna go Dallas Stars, and I think there is so much talent offensively on that team. Jamie Benn, Tyler Sagan. I mean, those two guys. I mean, Ben had a hip problem, and the guy won, the most points in the league, and that's crazy for a guy who had a hip problem.
How funny was that last game? They
Yeah,
were like triple shifting Ben.
it's unbelievable.
So you get the point.
Yeah, that's crazy. But what really hurt Dallas is defensively. They couldn't keep the puck out of the net.
Yeah.
And from watching Edmonton, you're not going to win every single game 6-5, 5-4. That's just not going to happen. And I think Dallas is a scary team. I mean, can you imagine if that team gets Connor McDavid? Oh my goodness, look out!
Yeah, oh wow, that would definitely be insane. Then they probably wouldn't need defense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree. They were an early pick in the year for me for them to go far. Looking at them, I thought they were a good team, and I just kind of overlooked it. I was talking to my one friend who's a big Dallas Stars fan, and I believe he put it best. He said, "No D and big D."
Yeah, that sums it up excellent. So we got our best teams in, our worst team in, and our best team out. So enough dancing around the playoffs. Let's just get right into it here. So let's start it off. We're gonna start off in the West, and this is a tough series. And even sitting here now talking to you, I wrote down who I would pick. I changed it earlier. I changed it again, and then I might even change it again now. But I'm gonna let you go first. I really need to think this through still. St. Louis and Minnesota, I think is going to be a great series. I think it's going to be the closest series of the whole first round. So you go ahead. You pick first. Minnesota, St. Louis.
Thanks for really doing me a favor here. Yeah, I definitely believe it's the toughest. Both teams are so deep. The Blues this year they've really come on with their young talent. They've showed up with Laterra, Tarasenko, Schwartz. Two of the three getting over 20 goals. Tarasenko is just taking the league by storm.
Oh, kid's fantastic to watch.
And even Yaskin, he got 13 this year. Who knows? I will say the St. Louis Blues are totally healthy. They have no injuries, so that could be key. The Wild only have Ballard, but with that Dubnyk pickup, this is a tough one. Minnesota, they're the best penalty killer team in the league. Who knows how many penalties will actually be called? That is one thing that scares me. It seemed like they were calling less and less penalties as the season went on, and now with the playoffs starting, I don't know if they'll call any.
This is actually the lowest this year. I saw a stat. This year was the lowest amount of penalties called per game since they started keeping track in the 60s. That's insane. It's 2015, and you're not calling penalties. That's crazy.
I don't know what they're doing. They kind of just let it slide back. Oh, this one's tough. I guess I think I'm going to go with the Blues. I think the biggest thing is going to be goaltending. It's going to be who's going to find the hot goalie if you're going to stay hot, or who's going to find it for 7 games, because it's probably going 7. But I think the big thing, like you said earlier, is Dubnyk played a ton of games, and the kids, I feel like he's got to hit a wall at some point. Both teams are just so stacked. It's gonna be a great series.
Yeah, so here's what I wrote down. I wrote down even matchup, and I think that's what it is. It's going to come down to goaltending. That's plain and simple. It's going to come down to. It's going to be, Dubnyk against either Allen or Elliott. I honestly don't know who's going to start for St. Louis. But the thing with Dubnyk, it's not only the wear down. He's never played in a playoff series before.
That's true. Yeah.
So
he's
I think
not in Edmonton and Arizona.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit different when you get to playoffs and it kind of ramps up a little bit, and the pressure's on a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that could be the factor. I think it's going to go 7. I wrote down Minnesota in 7, but I'm going to switch it. I'm going to go St. Louis in 7. I just think, for once, the Blues need to catch a break and get over the hump, and I think they at least win a round this year. So I'm going to go Blues. So let's give ourselves a little bit of a breather here if we're getting any more tough ones. Some people think this is still tough, but I think in the last few days this matchup has changed. Nashville and Chicago. I'll start it off, and like I said, I think it changed the last few days with Patrick came back. Before he went out, that guy was arguably the MVP of the league before he went out. And I think him coming back it boosts the confidence of the whole team. They limped down the stretch to get into the playoffs. And I think getting that guy back is going to do wonders for that club. He can score goals. He might not be 100% in the first few games, but once he gets going later in the series when it matters most, perhaps, I don't know how Nashville can stop him. Nashville can't score that many goals. Blackhawks just fill the net. Unless Rinne can stand on his head, I don't know how Nashville can keep up. I got the Hawks in 6, and I wrote it down this way. I think it sums it up. I don't think Nashville's ready yet. They're just not ready yet. Not this year.
Yeah, basically everything you said is what I was thinking. I agree pretty much with everything. I don't know. Who knows how much Kane's going to have a factor early on. He wasn't even supposed to be back till the third round. I don't know what they gave him that he's back now. But it's great to see. He was definitely going to be the MVP going up until he got hurt. They're a deep team, and I also feel like not the pressure's on, but with Taves and Kane's new contracts kicking in next year, they kind of got to go this year. The team's going to not necessarily be blown up, but they're going to be missing some pieces next year. They're a full team. Crawford's playing very well right now. And just as a team on a whole, they're looking great. They picked up Vermette at the deadline, and Nashville kind of sputtered going into the playoffs. I agree. I don't see how they can handle the offensive pressure of the Blackhawks. Fisher is also day-to-day too, so that would be another blow, and that's the last thing they're going to need going into this series.
Yeah, and something like you said too, you got to look at this might be Chicago's last chance. Those big contracts for Taves and Kane kick in next year, and you're going to start to get in some cap issues. So we'll see how that works out. So, looking at these matchups in the West, the West is going to be fun this year. So let's jump into the next one, and Anaheim and Winnipeg. I started the last one. This is another tough one, and I'm going to shift it over to you again. Anaheim, Winnipeg. Who you got?
This is another tough one. Like you said, I totally agree that the West is – they're going to beat the crap out of each other, and it's going to be great for the fans. Quickly looking, I think I'm going to go Anaheim. I think I love Winnipeg. They're a good team. I just don't know if they're there yet. They made the huge trade, and Myers and Stafford have been playing very well for them. The Ducks hold the season series 3-0. Two of the games were close. They were in shootout or overtime. And I just feel like Anaheim picking up Kessler, they have a lot of firepower up front. Getzlaf, Perry, Kessler, even Cogliano's been playing well this year. The only thing that worries me, I guess, would be their goaltending is super young, but I don't know. I just don't feel like they're really going to have to worry about it. I do think it goes pretty deep. I think the Ducks will finally get through, though, and they'll squeak it out. Probably 6.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got Anaheim here, too. With the goaltending for Anaheim, if Anderson falters, you got Gibson sitting there. So, that's, those are two great goalies to have. The Jets' home ice advantage is going to be something because Anaheim's going to have to at least steal one in Winnipeg in order to win the series.
Yeah, that place is going to be rocking.
Yeah, so, they got to get that. I'm with you. Too much firepower for the Ducks. I just think Getzlaf, Perry. That is the two best players in the series. And the way I look at it when it's tight is who has the best players, and that's Anaheim. Mm-hmm. And Pavlik, I know he had a great, stretch run. He's playing great right now. Just I don't know if he's playoff ready. I don't trust him.
I agree. I actually think Pavlik did play great late, but I think Hutchinson overall had a pretty good season. I wouldn't be surprised if they obviously look for him to go forward. Another good thing for Winnipeg to help them is Pearl will be back for Game 1. So he's been in and out of the lineup, but when he is in, he has been playing very well this season.
All right, so we're both on Anaheim. I actually went Anaheim in 7. I think it'll go that long, like you said too. So let's jump into, as we said, the best, worst, maybe, who knows what's going to happen here. Biggest toss-up, Canucks and Flames. I will start this one off. As much praise I put into Calgary and how I said Vancouver is the worst team, I think veteran experience gets this one done. And I mean barely. Barely. I think few of these games go to overtime, and I think Vancouver wins a few in overtime. But the goaltending situation in Vancouver scares me. Miller and Lack. Miller's been hurt. And even in Buffalo, he hasn't been that great of a playoff goaltender. He'll have his games, but last year in St. Louis, he'll also have his games where you go, ugh, And
He always seems let in those 2 or 3, a series that you're like, seriously?
they're backbreakers every time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you think he's got a short leash, huh?
Like I said, I don't know if he's gonna start.
Lack has been playing very well.
You gotta think you're Desjardins right now. You're sitting there, and you have Miller, who let in, I think it was 5 goals in his first game back, and
They won 6-5.
yeah. But I mean, with Lack, you feel comfortable going with him at least to start it off. But then again, the other part of me, if you want to get back to Miller, you got to get him games.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough call. I don't know who he goes with. I think Lack starts game one, honestly, and then they'll go from there. If Lack plays well, unfortunately for Miller, might be riding the bench, most of the series, if not going forward, however long they go.
I don't know. I think you got to go with Miller. Yeah, it's tough at first game back, but like you said, you got to give him his games. He was everything when the U.S. was in the Olympics a couple of years ago. I think he's still got it. You go with the veteran talent in the playoffs, and like you said, you just give him the short leash. If he lets up one bad game, I think Vancouver can overcome that. The Flames are super young, and like I said earlier, I think it'll be a good experience for them. I just don't know if they get out of the first round.
All right, so we're both in the Canucks. So let's jump to the East. And the East, I think, is not as difficult to pick here as the West would be. There's some great teams in the East. I think the better teams are in the West. So let's start it off with the next Canadian matchup, Montreal and the red-hot Ottawa Senators. Bill, start us off in the East.
This one's crazy. Montreal is just, I don't see them as a good team at all up front. Or, I don't know, just overall. I mean, Price, it's been all Price. And the one thing for them is if Price falls off even a little bit, look out. I mean, look at what happened last year when Price got hurt in the playoffs. There's no way you're getting anything out of Tokarski. Pacioretty's hurt, but I think he might be back for game one. That'll be huge for them. If not, look out. Ottawa might be able to take that first game. If they do, they might just keep that hot streak going. They were 3-1 in the season series. They're also a little bit better on the power play, not by much. I think I'm kind of talking myself into Ottawa here.
Okay, I'm going to go on the other side here. I'm going to go Montreal. I look at it this way. I remember a few years back when Buffalo made that great run to make the playoffs. Eventually you just kind of run out of steam. You've given all that effort. You're in the playoffs for a month, and I think you just run out. And I don't think Montreal's going to make it past round 2, but I think Price gets them at least a round. I think he wins them a round. And I'm curious to see how Hammond plays in the playoffs. Again, like we said in other goalies, it's a whole different atmosphere. It's a whole different experience. So I got the Habs here. So let's go to the next one. Bolts and Wings. And for me, this is easy.
Oh, yeah.
We got to give ourselves a little credit. We called this last week with Mrazek going game 1 for the Wings. I think Detroit's on the way down. And, unfortunately for them, they got matched up with the Lightning who are on the way up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just too much firepower for the Wings to keep up with. And I think the Bolts win this in 5. I think if last year the issue with Tampa Bay is that Bishop got hurt. And now if he gets hurt, you got Vasilevsky back there who might be the better goalie anyways.
Yep.
So I think Tampa Bay takes this one easy. Even with the Wings' experience and grit, I think Tampa Bay walks away.
I totally agree. Just looking at the line combos, just all the way through, Tampa Bay's firing on all cylinders. Even on the back end with Hedman and Strawman, they're even going to put some in. I just don't see any way how Detroit comes out of this one. No, just it's not going to happen. I don't like you try and think maybe, but no, I think Tampa Bay runs away 4 or 5 easy.
All right, getting near the end here, we got 2 matchups left, and this should be an interesting one. New York and Pittsburgh. So I'll let you start this one off. This is an interesting series here. Who you got?
For me, it's not too interesting. Rangers run away. Pittsburgh is dead injury-wise. Letang, Ehrhoff might be back, but if you're missing Letang, you're missing your core of the back end there. I know you can never count out Crosby or Malkin, but I just don't see how it, and especially with Fleury, I can't believe they re-signed him. He actually, believe it, he did have a good year this year.
He had the most shutouts in the league, didn't he? I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, he did with 10. But and you know what happens when playoff time comes
Yeah.
around. He just, I don't know if it's mental or it's got to be, because I don't know how he falls apart all the time. The Rangers are hot, and they are probably the deepest team. If you look all the way through, St. Louis on their third line, it's
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
it's
it's
just
New
no
York.
way.
It's I'm gonna go with New York too. I got the Rangers in 6. Penn's struggling. I think they're up for some changes in the offseason. That'd be maybe something to get into later.
Mm-hmm.
Letang is gonna crush them. I mean, don't forget too, they don't have Olimata either.
Yeah,
I mean that's another crushing thing on the
and
blue
Dupuis
line.
all season.
Yeah, and Dupuis too. The Rangers are healthy. If I'm not mistaken, I think the Rangers have owned the Penguins in the season series too.
3-0-1.
Yeah, I mean it just really, and even I think the wins, they weren't even close. I think the Rangers dominated those games. So I got the Rangers in 6. I think the Rangers are the deepest team, like you said, and I think they're in for another long run again.
Yeah, even if you just look at the Penguins real quick again, their GM really isn't helping them any. I mean, you got Crosby, you got Malkin. Their bottom 6 is nowhere. Uh,
Yeah, LaPierre, Downey. I mean that's yeah. I mean that's trouble down there. And you need a full team to make a long run.
yeah, it's all about depth when it comes to the playoffs, and the Penguins definitely do not have that.
Absolutely, that's weird for a Penguins team. That used to be the Penguins' calling mark because they had a deep team.
Yeah, you could stop Crosby and someone else would step up, but I just don't think anybody this year is going to. I mean, even when they needed the games to get into the playoffs, the Malkin and Crosby are kind of struggling. I felt like they know everything's on their shoulders, and even more than previous years, it's all them. If they don't do anything, it's going to be quick and it's going to be ugly.
I'm with you. All right, so last one. Let's wrap it up here. Caps and Isles, and this is going to be another fun series. I'll start this one off. As I said earlier, I think this is I think this is the Caps' year. Maybe not to go all the way, but I think they make a deep run. With Holtby back there, Ovechkin, Backstrom. I mean, Ovechkin's playing defense this year, and you got to give some credit to the coaching staff there in Washington. He's a plus player this year, which is crazy. He was like a negative 400 last year.
That's exactly why you really don't put much in plus minus.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, still, you guys scores 50 goals, you're negative like 50. It's kind of crazy. But regardless, I think on the Isles, I think they, a couple years ago they almost shocked Pittsburgh, but so did Columbus the next season. And also it's Jarl Halak too, which should be interesting to see in the playoffs. St. Louis didn't think they could do with him last year. And I always go back to Halak is that Montreal series. And Montreal and Caps, and he did it to the Caps. I mean, that was unbelievable what he put together for Montreal.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, they had stop signs in Calgary. Yeah. They're putting Halak's name on it.
Yeah, right, and that's crazy.
Calgary, Montreal.
Yeah, so I got the Caps in 7 here. I think it'll be a long series, but I think the Caps push through, and I think they get themselves a couple rounds here.
I definitely think he goes 7 as well. I so badly want to give it to the Islanders. Those pickups at the beginning of the year with Leddy and Boychuk were huge. Everybody that was young and they're wondering why they hadn't been stepping up, like Bailey and Okposo, even Anders Lee this year, he had 25, believe it or not. Strome, I want to say they're going to win it, but I just think you're right. I think the Washington Capitals, they need to get through. If they don't get through now, I just don't know if it's ever going to happen for Ovechkin.
At least not in Washington.
Well,
but if will we ever leave Washington?
Yeah,
let's not jump out there.
Yeah, no. But see, the thing is, though, if the Islanders can somehow shut down Ovechkin and Backstrom, who's going to step up? Glenn Cross? Brouwer? I
you got Johansson there, but yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you shut down that top line. I mean, then who's going to step up for them?
Washington's going to hit. The big thing I think is the Islanders are going to have to stay out of the penalty box. The Washington Capitals are number 1 power play, 25.3%. I'll let you guys figure out why. 53 goals. I think half of them are on the power play. So
you know what's crazy too? He stands in the same spot every time. You think he'd have somebody staying over there. He literally stands in the same spot every time.
Yep, and he just blasts away, and he can pick them. But yeah, like I said, I wanted to give the Islanders because it would be a great story with the Coliseum going down this year, but I think the Washington Capitals squeaked through in 7.
All right, so there it is. There is our matchups for you. So, Bill, I mean, this was a lot of fun. I mean, we got right into it, and we're going to come right back at it later this week. We're going to talk some Sabres later this week. We're going to have a little NHL lottery fun. So thanks for listening. Like I said, we will be back again later this week for a quick turnaround. For Bill and Chad, we are out of here. Thanks for listening.
See ya.